One of the most controversial and suppressed pieces of information in modern history is no doubt the protocols of learned elders of Zion. The Zionist narrative is, of course, that it's like a horrible slander and a fabrication. But to be honest, it's simply, well, let's put it that way. It's like calling your ex a prostitute just because he's sleeping with another man, right? First off, the publisher of this text has never claimed authorship for himself. And also, the publisher of this text has never explicitly pinpointed any other author. At best, they can call it fiction, maybe, but nevertheless, the text is worth, at least reading. The main argument that they're making is that there was some other writer called Maurice Choily who had previously published pieces of this text, which in my opinion at least doesn't prove absolutely anything. Because most texts, most literature is like copy-paste some sort of. They take some from here, some from there. Very little part of literature is actually 100% original. Because consider the fact that this time when the protocols were published in Paris in the beginning of 20th century, it was the nexus of revolutionary movement, illuminated ideas and all of these things. And only like 50 or 60 years earlier, the government of Bayer in Germany had actually cracked down on this secret society, which was called Illuminati. It was a real historical society, and they published the blueprints, which were basically the blueprints of how they a few decades later executed the French Revolution. But nonetheless, I wanted to read out one part of this protocols, and the chapter 7 is how this so-called elders of Zion plan to, sow ferments and discords and hostility all around the world, enforce censorship, corrupt politicians. So, the intensification of armaments and increase of police force are all essential for the completion of our plan. What we have to get at is that everywhere else beside Israel, in all states, only the masses of proletariat, or like dumb goyim, so to say, and a few millionaires devoted to our cause, and police and soldiers. Throughout all Europe, by means of relations with Europe, in other continents also, we must create ferments, discords and hostility. Therein we gain double advantage. In the first place, we keep in check all countries, for they well know that we have the power whenever we like to create disorders or to restore order. All these countries are accustomed to see in us an indispensable force of coercion. In the second place, by our intrigues, we shall tangle up all the threads which we have stretched into the cabinets of all states by means of political, economic treaties or loan obligations. Well, they're simply like articulating how they plan to corrupt the governments. In order to succeed in this, we must use great cunning and penetration during negotiations and agreements, but as regards what is called the official language, quote unquote, we shall keep to the opposite tactics and assume the mask of honesty and compliancy. In this way, the people and governments of goyim, who we have taught to look only at outside whatever we present to their notice, will still continue to accept us as the, saviors of the human race. We must be in a position to respond at every act of opposition by war with the neighbors of that country, which dares to oppose us. Let's look at, for example, Libya. But if these neighbors should also venture to stand collectively against us, then we must offer resistance by universal war. The principal factor of success in the political is the secrecy of its undertaking. The word should not agree with the deeds of the diplomat. So in other words, you want to have success in politics, you need to be cunning and dishonest. We must compel the governments of the goyim to take actions in directions favored by our widely conceived plan, already approaching the desired consummation, by what we shall represent as public opinion, secretly prompted by us through the means of so-called great power, the press, which, and pay attention, with few exceptions that may be disregarded, is already entirely in our hands. In other words, they're saying that they control all of the media, so this is how they keep the politicians at bay and the public opinion. In a word, to sum up our system of keeping the governments of goyim in Europe in check, we shall show our strength to one of them by terrorist attempts, and to all if we allow the possibility of a general rising against us, wherein we shall respond with the guns of America. The chapter 7 of the Elders of Zion, and as you can see, the main topics that it covers is the militarization and the control of force, control of security forces, intensification of armaments, so there's more military, more police, fomenting global instability, creating ferments, discords and hostility, quote unquote, wherein they get this double advantage, gives this Israeli moles, conspirators, the power that they can either create disorder or restore order and then manipulate this on their political benefit. It covers deception and diplomatic duplicity, the secrecy in politics, the mask of honesty, and of course the control of information and the public opinion through the manipulation of the press. And fifth, obviously, the coercion through the Great War, the ultimate deterrent, the guns of America. So this was chapter 7 of the learned elders of Zion.